Welcome back, everybody, to Saddle Up with Shaad and Destin. It is draft month, Shaad. Like, we've made it. This offseason's felt like an eternity, but we're here. We've done it. How you doing, man?
I'm feeling terrible actually. I don't know what came over me. Just got sick. I think I got it from my son. My son he was really sick last week, and of course I don't have the option of avoiding my son, so I had to inherit it. And hopefully I
Well,
feel
you
better.
have the option. You just be a bad person.
Well, yeah, I mean I don't want to be the guy who neglects his son because he doesn't want to get sick.
That's fair.
So here I am, fighting through it. I fought through the Audibles and Analytics podcast yesterday with my bro John, and now I'm here to do the same for our show because it just means that much to me, man. It just means that much to me.
Yeah, I've been working all week on, so I have all my positional rankings down. Like,
Hmm.
finally, like I'm a big tinkerer. I mean, you know how my brain works. Like,
Yeah.
I I'm a big overthinker. Like, I'll get my list down, then I'll change this and that, and this guy
Yeah.
and that guy. I finally got it to where I've locked all my positional rankings. So now it's the ranking my top 200 big board. So I've been
Hmm.
doing that over the last week, and man, like I've moved that thing around so many times over like I'm finalizing it by Friday, and I'm not looking at it, I'm not touching it again. But we're at that part of the off season.
I've done cornerbacks. I've done edge rushers. I've done defensive tackles. Quarterbacks, of course. I started with that. And I'm going to wide receivers. So as tomorrow, I'm gonna start on wide receivers.
I have my top 100 of my 200 big board.
Uh huh.
Good. How many corners do you think I have in my top 100 shot?
Your top 100. Um. Okay, this is. I'm gonna take a shot in the dark. You
Okay.
have one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, probably eight, nine.
So you're saying 9 in the top 100?
No, 12.
Is that what you're locking in?
Nine. I've watched 12 so far, and you're a little bit higher on this corner class than me, so I'm gonna go with 12.
17.
17.
I have 17 corners in my top
Okay,
100.
really quickly, give me a yeah or nay. Uh, Christian Gonzalez,
Oh yeah.
Witherspoon,
Yeah, oh yeah.
Joey Porter Jr.,
Oh yeah.
Deontay Banks,
Yes.
Kelly Ringo,
Yes.
Emmanuel Forbes,
Yes.
Julius Brent,
Yes.
Cam Smith,
Yes.
DJ Turner,
Yes.
Clark Phillips,
Yes.
Eli Ricks.
No. He's just out. He's
Okay.
he's corner 19.
Oh, you have him at CV19.
I have him at CB 19.
Okay, so who do you have left that I didn't name?
So you didn't say Darius Rush, big Darius Rush guy.
Darius Rush, I
Um,
think, is a good fit for the Colts. Go ahead.
so Darius Rush is in that top 100. Riley Moss, Jacorian Bennett, Cameron Mitchell out of Northwestern. I didn't hear you say him. Garrett Williams out of Syracuse,
Injured guy. I like him a lot though.
and Kai Blue Kelly.
Kai
I think
Blue
that's it.
Kelly.
I think that's
Stanford.
everybody you
Stanford.
did not say.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. I like a lot of those guys. I'm actually not as high on Julius Brent as most people. And
Well, okay, so what is too high for Julius Brents? So like I've had this
like
conversation with myself. So like early on in this draft process, he was like a fifth round guy for everybody. So I was
mhm,
higher on Julius Brents than others.
yeah.
And then I feel like we're at the point now where people have him as like a top 32 guy. I don't
Yeah.
have that.
Late first, early second is what I'm seeing on Brent's, and to me, that's too high. The the TCU tape is awful. Like it is awful in that matchup with Quentin Johnson. And I like to watch games where you're matched up with, NFL talent. I don't particularly care too much about the your peers for the most part. I want to see you against high level guys. And he struggled in that game. I didn't like the Baylor game. I don't think he's bad though. I just think he's really raw.
I
That's
think
really
I
what
mean
I think
I
it
mean so
is.
so Joey Porter Jr., right? Higher
Mm-hmm.
higher end guy. Like I think their pros and cons are pretty similar. I just think Julius Brents the cons show up more. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
both very physical type guys. I think Julius Brents will have a better time converting to a zone system at the NFL level than I think Porter is going to.
I think he's
Um,
a much better zone cover than zone corner than a man corner.
Exactly. So like, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like I think
Hmm.
Brents would make it since there, but they're both physical, both big guys.
Yeah.
I think Brents is going to probably get flagged quite a bit early on. So last year we kind of saw it with Elam out of Buffalo. Um, he goes there out of Florida.
Hmm.
He gets flagged a lot
Yeah.
early. And that was the expectation. When you draft guys that aggressive, like that's gonna happen. We got Drake Wally here with I just need Jonathan Mingo to fall to the Colts. Man, Jonathan Mingo's another like we're in the part of the offseason where people are like they have their guys, right? So Jonathan Mingo is a big Colts guy amongst Twitter.
Yeah.
Jonathan Mingo, the last three mocks I've seen from pretty prestigious mock draft guys have had him like early second, first round guy. Like I saw him go at
Oh,
17
that's
today.
crazy.
I saw him go 17.
I haven't really watched him yet. I've heard a whole bunch of good things. Zach is really high on him, and
Zach's
I talk to Zach a
our, our
lot.
our our colleague Zach Hicks is big on the big slot in general.
Yeah, power
Um,
slot. Yeah,
yeah, so he's always big in that realm, and Jonathan Mingo is definitely a big slot.
and I think with the Eagles offense that they ran last year, the perimeter run game is such an important part that you get a power slot, a guy that can block, and also just a big stronger body in there. And I think Jonathan Mingo, from what I saw from him just watching, I think he matches that profile really well. Naturally, he's going to get the AJ Brown comparisons just because of the number and the school that he goes to. But
Let's say the helmet he has on.
yeah, but they tested extremely similar as well. So, I'm excited to really sit down and watch that guy. It's a couple of guys that I got to watch for the next show that I'm doing with John. We're starting out with Quinn Johnson, Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. So pretty much guys I've all saw play a lot, but I really get
And
to sit down and put the glasses on.
we're gonna get to talk a lot about the draft. As you can see in this first 7 minutes here, me and
Yeah.
Shad are big draft guys. We could do this all
Yes.
day, and we're gonna get to it
Literally.
today. But we're gonna touch a little bit on a subject. Free agency is still going on. I
Hmm.
know it doesn't seem like it because just the Schefter Rappaport tweets are slowing down. But there's a lot of quality guys still out there, and there's some big needs here that the Colts have that the Colts are not going to be able to fill all these needs by training
No.
camp using the draft. Like, I mean, off the top of my head, and then we can talk about the free agency a little bit. I mean, the last notable signing, Pharaoh Brown, that's a solid blocking tight end that's going to get brought in. That fills a hole the Colts had. Not in any specific order. I still think the Colts have holes at quarterback, obviously. A receiving running back would probably be an element they need to add. I think a linebacker with coverage ability needs to be added. I think a slot receiver or two need to be added.
With
Right
Isaiah
now,
McKenzie, you won't get two. You may get one,
I
but
mean, but you might need to like even with Isaiah McKenzie. Like let's say you draft a guy. That's all you really have in the slot, unless you expect Ashton Doolin to play significant snaps this year.
yeah, I like Isaiah McKenzie a lot more as a wide receiver 4 than I do as wide receiver 3.
I
But I
agree.
think if you get a big guy like Mingo, or another slot receiver, and you fit him in at number 3, and you move Isaiah McKenzie to number 4, I think you're solid. As long as you're getting a guy that's going to come in and contribute, which the Colts haven't really had a great history of landing guys that come in and contribute instantly. As you see somebody talking about Mike Strong, I think this is it year for Mike Strong right here. New coaching staff coming in, man. It's put up or shut up this year. We've been waiting. We gave you a lot of time to develop. It's time you start seeing some results. I know he had some issues learning the playbook earlier in his career. That shouldn't be an issue at this point, even though you're adopting to a new playbook. I mean, just your understanding and knowledge of how to play the game should be improved at this point. So I'm interested to see how that plays out.
Hey, with a new coaching staff, I mean, roster spot like 35 to 53, like
Hmm.
that could look very different than what it's looked in this last coaching staff. Like that roster loyalty in a sense that you have to
Yeah.
those guys, like that's gone. Like it's a new
Oh no,
system,
yeah.
like so
No
many
favorites
things
no
have
more.
changed. So like that 35 to 53 range of the roster could be completely different. And a few other needs real quick for before we hit free agency. Corner, obviously. I've talked about it for a while, but the
Big
corner room
need.
is as thin as it's been in a while with the trade of Stephon Gilmore to Dallas. And then offensive line depth, as well as at least a person that you trust to compete at the right guard spot, whether that's a rookie, whether that's a free agent. Good evening, Shaad and
I
Des
didn't know you got a
Daddy.
new nickname.
I
That's
get.
Daddy.
I feel like I have a new nickname every single show somehow, some way.
Appreciate the donation,
Yeah,
Kevin.
appreciate it, Kevin. And just a
Although you
reminder,
made me
everybody.
feel a little bit uncomfortable, but go ahead.
Shaw's just mad he didn't get a dad nickname
I
as
don't
well,
want
I
I don't want to
think.
be Shad
Uh,
Daddy.
yeah, it's got to be different now. We can't have you shot and Death Daddy, uh, but everybody, just a reminder: we are now monetized through YouTube's
Hmm.
partner program. So those super chats help us produce this content to you guys, and we're super thankful for that. So any super chat that comes through that stays in the appropriate area. I think Good Evening Shad and Death Daddy is our
That's
line.
that's the
But
line
so,
right
so
there.
let's not cross that, and we will feature it, put it on the screen immediately, and talk about it. But so free agency, looking at these needs, is there any need that pops out to you that the Colts are probably going to at least fill a portion of a hole? Like doesn't mean you're going to fill the hole completely, but before the draft, like, do you think there's any hole here that the Colts could potentially fill?
Yeah, I know for a fact they made an offer to a cornerback. I'm not allowed to say who it is, but it's a free agent cornerback, veteran guy, a guy you like a lot. You know, we've talked about it. Um, I know your fingers is crossed over there, but it's a little bit lower than what the guy's looking for. He's testing his market, and I wouldn't be surprised if in a week or two, he comes back to it, or maybe the Colts even revisit it after the draft. Because a lot of times, let me tell you, the Colts will offer these guys different contracts on the low end, and then they'll go through the draft and they'll see, what holes they were able to fill and what they wasn't, and that make it more of a priority. Hypothetically, I have to use a totally different. Let's say Dalton Reisner. The Colts offered him 1 year, 4 million, hypothetically. And then they go through the draft. If they was to land somebody like Cody Mock in the second round, then the rising of deal will be off the table. But if they go through the draft and they're not able to address that position early on in the draft, then maybe they go to Risner afterwards, and he's more of a priority now at this point. So maybe you're more likely to offer 5 or 6 million instead of that 4 million that you offered prior to the draft. So it's one of those situations. I think if the Colts get a guy early day two that they feel like can start right away, then maybe cornerback won't be as big of a priority as it is right now, because if they land a guy early on day two, like Destin said, I think there's multiple starters that people that can come in and start right away on day two. I just don't know if Julius Brents is one of them. And I don't want to pick on Julius Brents, but I just know he's a favorite amongst the Colts community. I'm just not as high on him as some people is.
Hey, I like Julius Brents. We said that earlier, but I like multiple corners that are on the market. I've said that. You've seen it on Twitter.
Uh-huh.
So not getting into names of anything, but that offer that's out there would make a lot of sense. I think there's a few other corners that are veterans, because personally, I think you need to sign a corner and draft a corner.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think if said contract gets accepted, that means the Colts are out of the market for a corner. I think they're in the market for a high end corner in the draft still. Um,
Regardless.
yeah, like I think you have to,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just so thin right now. Like that's the thing. And I'll believe the things about Kenny Moore being safe on the roster when I see it. I this is just a gut feeling. But I think there's probably a part of that comment that was made, because the Colts in Arizona, one of our colleagues over at the Horseshoe Huddle had mentioned it on their show on Locked On for Zach Hicks. He had mentioned that he had heard that there has been some conversation there, for the Colts to get up to three. And Kenny Moore and Jonathan Gannon have a very good relationship. Like, I could see Gannon wanting Kenny Moore in a deal. So Ballard making that comment when he did, like, I feel like that could have been related. I do. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. But Isaiah Rodgers, in that case, would be the only player in the DB room with real starting experience at
Mhm.
the corner spot. So I think signing one and drafting one would just be necessary. And you mentioned guard earlier. I think there are multiple starting guards available on the market still,
Yeah,
but
me too.
I do think the Colts, it would be smart to go through the first 2 days of the draft, see if a guard falls in their laps a little bit, depending on how things go. Because, I mean, depending on who you go at quarterback, there's a guard that's a teammate of one of those quarterbacks that could be there potentially in the early part of the second that they could look at as well. So there's a lot of options there. And if they don't go quarterback early on, a question here from Logan Schmidt: thoughts on Lamar? I mean, I think I've been pretty open. I think Lamar's awesome. Lamar Jackson's 26 years old, former MVP. Those guys don't hit the market very often. Um, if I was in charge, I think the Colts would be considering it more than they are. But I
Mhm.
think my opinion on it is that I think the Colts want to go a rookie.
Yeah, it seems like all signs is pointing toward a rookie. And I actually think if the Colts was picking a tad bit later in this draft, then Lamar probably would have been a serious option. But if you have a chance to get a guy that you feel like is going to be here for 10 to 12 years at the rookie contract rate, then you pretty much got to go for that. And yeah, because I was holding that super chat. I was hoping it didn't go away because I just didn't want to interrupt you. That's what I think I might start doing. Every time somebody sends a super chat while you're talking, I'm just
You're gonna
gonna
tell me to shut up?
yes, that's
Yeah. So
that's
pay
the deal.
top dollar for Shaw to tell me to shut up on
I'm just
air,
gonna
everybody.
shut Destin up every time you guys send them. So send them back to back, and Destin won't get a word out this episode. So
So we mentioned corner, we mentioned
mhm,
guard, that there's some options there. Um, I mean, outside of that, I don't think there's any rush free agency wise. I think the guys that are on the market are going to be on the market
yeah,
come the draft. I think they are smart enough to know as well that their market gets a boost once drafts finalize and there's not another way to fill holes anymore. The draft is there right now. That's in the way of some guys. But after that, I feel like it's just gonna open up for some guys. So we will see what happens there. But the talk of the last month has been, what are the Colts going to do it for? I don't know about you, Shad, but I'm ready to talk about beyond four. I,
yes.
and what the Colts could do round two, round three, and on through seven. So looking at day two, so round two and three, we just talked about the needs. What positions jump out to you via this draft that you think the Colts would look to target on day two?
I think corner's the biggest hole you have to fill. You know, if you don't land a free agent between now and the draft, I think it's a priority. Right now, your starting three corners are Kenny Moore, Isaiah Rodgers, and Dallas Flowers. While I like Dallas Flowers as a special team undrafted free agent, surprise guy who came on and played decent in limited amount of snaps, uh, you got to upgrade at the position. You can't roll out. That would be irresponsible to roll out there with this group and expect results. You know, we seen Ballard do it 2 years ago with edge rusher. We advised him not to do it. He went with the young guys, decided not to bring in any veterans. He paid for it. We seen him do it last year with wide receiver. You know, and we seen what this offense looked like. You just can't do it again at cornerback. But I think 35, I think they trade back. I don't think they take a player at 35. I think if they were going to do that, they would use a third round pick to move. Third round, I think 35 is the perfect bar, as my man White Law says right here. I think you use 35, you move back, pick up an extra third, and it kind of replace that chip you may use in order to go from 4 to 3 with the Arizona Cardinals. But I think cornerback is the position that I would target because that's where it seems like you can get the most value and it addresses a big need as well.
Yes, I mean, so I mentioned earlier, if you were listening to us just nerding out about the draft, I have 17 corners in my top 100 on my big board, and
Destin is insane, by the way, you
I am.
guys.
I am insane. Like I like I think the thing about this corner class that I like so much is like how much size and athleticism comes
Mhm.
together. Like you don't get these guys that are 6'2", 6'3" at this
Yeah.
position that are also running sub 4.5s. Like you don't get this
Yeah.
very often.
Yeah.
And this class is full of them. And
It's
so
a
like
lot.
so we'll see. I think day two makes a lot of sense for corner. I think with the Colts potentially trading up to three, like you said, there's the potential that you lose that third rounder to make it get done. So I think people need to kind of strap in and expect that you could fall further in the second round than you want to recoup that third,
Yeah.
um, because you're not falling from 35 to 40 to get a third.
No.
Um, if you're trading back from 35 with the intent of getting a third, you're probably falling to like in my most recent mock, I had the Colts trade back
52,
with the Lions, and I think it was 48 is where the Lions are
48.
at.
Yeah, 48. I can see that.
So 13 spots. The Lions also are a team that have two firsts, 2 seconds, and a third. So it's a lot of draft capital that they could survive losing a third.
Yeah.
So that's a team that I look at a lot, thinking that they could look back to trade. But after the trade back, I think the two spots that I keep coming back to, um, corner, guard, pop out a lot. I still think they could consider center. I mean, the Ryan Kelly is safe stuff is interesting, but I mean, you go back a couple years ago when the Eagles select a center early in the draft with Kelsey on the roster still.
Yeah.
And like that's a position where if you're going to go a rookie quarterback, getting a center for the longevity of his career is a very important aspect in partnering it up long term.
And I think that's
So
maybe why they thought about keeping Kelly too, because I guess you want to experience center as well before you probably bring somebody in. I'm sure Kelly will be intricate in helping it with protections and what to do with the offensive line in certain scenarios. So I can see it both ways. You kind of do want your center and your quarterback to grow together in a Jeff Saturday, Peyton Manning type role, but you also can look at it as like the veteran guy may help get this young quarterback up to speed too.
yeah, I mean for sure. But corner guard, um, edge rusher is another one to like look out
How
for in
big
the
is the
first two
need as edge
rounds.
rusher to you?
I mean, adding Sampson was a nice add.
Hmm.
I still think rotationally, like from what I had heard early in the offseason, the Colts want to start Quiddy Pay and Dio. They want those two to be the guys that
Hmm.
get the majority of the snaps on the edge. So I didn't expect big splashes free agency. I thought Sampson was a bigger name than I was expecting, to be honest.
I mean, he is the biggest name we've signed. I mean, well, aside from Matt Gay, most
Yeah.
free agent money for a kicker ever. Don't you ever get it twisted.
But so like that was an interesting signing. I still think they probably could look to draft a guy or two. This edge class isn't as full of Ballard fits that I would like, to where I think day two, that because of the drop off on day three in this edge class, I could see it being considered in like the round three area. Now, I mean, I'm a Will McDonald, the fourth guy,
It's
so
no
he'd
way.
he'd be a guy in the second. I
No
think people
way.
would lose their mind if we
They
went
would have to
edge in the
pick they
second.
would have to keep that 35 to get him. They would have to pick
Yeah.
him at
Now
35.
we talked about trading back. If Keely Ringo is there at 35, could you trade back? I don't know if I
Uh
could. I don't know if I would have it in me.
and I'm not crazy about Keely Ringo in a traditional system, but no, wait. As a traditional like man corner, if he's asked to play man all game, I don't
Oh,
like him. I don't like him in that type of role. But as far as a fit here, oh no, it's a lot of things I like about him in a fit here. He has a lot of strengths. He's a traditional height, weight, speed guy, just like Ballard loves too. He's a great athlete. It's a lot to like about Keely Ringo's game, man. I'm not gonna lie.
ask me where I have Keely Ringo ranked in my corner list, Shad.
Wait, before I ask you, I'm gonna follow my man CMDSR advice. Y'all hit that like button. I don't know
Hey,
where it
he
is.
he ain't wrong,
He
but
ain't. All right.
but
So go ahead. Where do you have Keely Ringo? It's something crazy. Don't make me mad. Don't make me slam my phone.
Keely Ringo is my corner three.
What?
Keely Ringo is my corner three.
You have him behind Witherspoon and Gonzalez?
Yeah, Gonzalez one, Witherspoon two, Ringo three.
I have Ringo. He's CB five for me. So I guess that's not
My
crazy,
top my
crazy.
top five. Then that's all I can give you. I
Okay,
I got I got a
I give
whole
you my top. I give you my top 5 after.
I got a whole draft guide that's gonna be posted, so I can't give too many of my secrets out.
Okay,
But
that's the secret sauce.
I got Gonzalez at 1. I got Witherspoon at 2. I got Keely Ringo at 3. I got Joey Porter Jr. at 4, and I got Cam Smith at 5.
I have that's not bad. Besides the Killer Ringo, I think that's way too high. Well, not way too high, but a little too high. I have Gonzalez 1. I have Deontay Banks 2. Witherspoon 3. Emmanuel Forbes 4. Killer Ringo 5. And Cam Smith and Killer Ringo is damn close. I almost went Cam Smith instead of Killer Ringo, but yeah. I'm high on
I like
Forbes,
Banks
man.
too. I like Banks.
I'm high
Forbes
on Banks too. Banks is my
Forbes is
CB2.
if Forbes wasn't so small, like
Oh,
weight
he's thin.
wise,
He's the
yeah,
same size as me. We weigh the
yeah.
same thing,
I
same
was
height
saying
and everything.
his weight concerns me a little bit. But I mean, I like his play. I mean, his tape is fun.
Yeah.
Super physical guy. Has the height that you want at the position. Like
Ball skills
I'm
is
not anti
outstanding.
him at
Like
all.
his ball skills
He's
is
a top 10 guy
outstanding.
for me.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like he's inside my top 10. I won't say his actual number. Like that's for another day.
I mean,
But
this guy has 6 pick sixes like in his career. Like, do you know how
oh, hey,
insane that is?
like I
6
said, his
pick
tape is super
sixes?
fun. His tape is super fun.
Like the ball production is stupid. Like
But I
it's
mean,
stupid. Ex Will Levis, he took a pick six back
Keely
on Will Levis.
Keely Ringo to me. So like, if you guys know much about me, like corner is my favorite position to scout.
Hmm.
Like I love the mechanical side of corners. I love the instinctual sides. I love the scheme fits and like looking at those things. Keely Ringo allowed 1 touchdown in college to Marvin Harrison Jr.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that.
People torch him for the Ohio State game. That was the only
It would have
touchdown.
been 2 if he wouldn't if Marvin Harrison wouldn't have got hit in the back of the end zone on that.
That was a
That
pretty
was
throw.
a dime
That
from
was a
CJ
dime.
Stroud,
That was a
like an
dime.
absolute
Um,
dime.
but Keely Ringo allowed 1 touchdown.
Hey man, I like Keely Ringo. I like him. I have some questions about him, but
And
in
Keely
this
Ringo has
scheme,
that, but Keely Ringo also has that
he's
element of
really
him
good.
to where you don't throw at him. Like Keely Ringo became that type of corner in college
Mhm.
in the SEC. Like he wasn't playing in the Mountain West.
Yeah,
Like Keely Ringo was a guy that quarterbacks did not throw at in the SEC. Like I've been high on Keely Ringo for a while. I thought some of these people early on in the draft process that were saying he could fall into the second round were crazy. I'm hearing more and more teams think he could fall out because some of these risers that are coming out. Emmanuel Forbes is getting a lot of love from NFL teams that I've heard. I've heard a
Deontay
lot of
Banks and
things.
Cam Smith.
I've heard a lot
Those
of things
guys
about
are a
Deontay
shooter.
Banks, Cam Smith, Tyreek Stevenson out of Miami, which I'm much lower on him than I've heard teams are.
I'm
But
lower on him too, but that's another story. I have him
I
behind Keely Ringo easily.
I have pretty close contacts with about 4 NFL teams across the league. I had
Mhm.
a team when they were talking about their corner boards say that Tyreek Stevenson was a top 5 corner on their board.
In what class? This class?
Tyreek Stevenson, they had him as a top 5 corner in this class.
Is that the wildest thing you heard?
I mean, I've heard some wild
I know a team that has
positional ranking stuff though. Like what I've learned the most about getting in the world of like
teams.
talking to team reps is
They are
that
crazy, bro.
every team's board is nuts. Like
Yeah,
they all look at things super different.
it's crazy. I know a team that actually thinks Levis is. I know 2 teams, as a matter of fact, that has Levis as as quarterback 2.
I've only heard one. I've heard a team that has him at quarterback 2, and then I've heard a different quarterback 1 from 3 different teams. I've heard Richardson at quarterback 1 for a team. I've heard Stroud and I've heard Young.
That's nuts. Shout out to our guy Patrick Rye. What did he say? Sorry, Destin put it up and I took it down.
Yeah, we keep putting it up, tracking it down. Patrick
Yeah.
Wright here, first 40 picks. Are there more cornerbacks or quarterbacks taken? Seems like teams are going to take a lot of these quarterbacks off the board quick. Okay, so I don't buy, and you could disagree with me. I don't buy this Hooker's going in the first round. I don't think Hooker's going in the first 40 picks.
You
Like
don't?
I don't.
I think he goes at the top of the second.
I don't.
I never bought the first round. But you know that night, I'm gonna tell you, man, and I learned this being at the draft. That night in between day 1 and day 2, a lot of those guys that teams like, man, they make moves up to go get those guys. So I think once the round one is gone, I know a lot of people are thinking about the 5th-year option thing. It's not that big of a deal to some teams. I'm gonna just tell y'all, yeah, fans make that a
Do
bigger
you do
deal
you
than
do you
what
want
it
a fifth
actually
year
is.
option on Hooker?
I was about to say that, like,
He's gonna be 31.
with a guy you're taking,
That's
he
not
is
an
gonna have
exaggeration.
31.
He'll be
I know,
31 at the end of a
I
fifth year
know,
option.
I know. Let me answer Nathan's question real quick, and then we'll get back to Patrick. Because Dallas Flowers will be a starter, Nathan, and you don't want that
You do not want that.
at all.
But so I mean,
I,
the
I, I got
overall
five. I
answer,
got 5 quarterbacks going top 40. I have
I'm only go four. I'm gonna go four quarterbacks go in the top four.
think Hooker falls out the top 40.
I think the concerns with Hooker are just so much more severe than people realize.
I
Like
agree.
he is gonna be 26 years old before he can even sniff competition at the position, which is fine that he's gonna be able to take a year and learn some things because he's coming from a system that is just so not pro ready. Like he's coming from a
Yeah,
system that is it just doesn't translate to the NFL level. So like
yeah.
he's gonna have to rework the way he looks at the position as well as recovering from a knee injury and he
That's
doesn't
what
use
scares
the
me the
middle of the
most.
field.
The
He doesn't
system.
he
The
doesn't use the
system
middle of
is
the
what
field.
scares me the most, man. He's a big, strong guy, strong in the pocket, got a good arm. But like you said, everything is vertical or it's outbreaking to the sideline. And the amount of space that they use in that offense is just unrealistic. Like playing on a far hash, it it's a wonky system, man. And yes, he lit it up. He lit Alabama up. He lit everybody up. He was a Heisman candidate, but that stuff you see, it just doesn't translate to the NFL. It's gonna have to tweak some things. I think he has the physical tools and the smarts and the desire to want to be great. So I do think he'll be a solid pro. It's just nothing I want to hang my hat on because of the questions I have for him.
But I think there's a real possibility that we see like 8 corners taken in the top 40.
8?
I think it's possible.
I don't think 8.
I think so. I mean, Gonzalez is a lock to go top 40.
Witherspoon's a lot.
Witherspoon's a lock. I think Keely Ringo's a lock to go top 40. Like he may fall out of the first round, but he's
Yeah,
going top 40.
I think so. I think
Joey
Banks
Porter's
is
a lock to
Joey
go,
Porter's a lot. I think Banks is a lot.
and then Cam Smith and Emmanuel
Probably.
Forbes. That's 7. And then I'm hearing a lot of love for Brents and Tyreek Stevenson in the first round.
It's
Like
no way. It's no way Brent goes top 40.
I'm
It's just no way.
I'm telling you, there are teams that look at him as a first round pick. I don't know if he will go first round because it's all about positional rankings and things like that.
Yeah,
But there are teams that look at him as a first round corner.
yeah. That's an interesting question from Logan.
But either
Too,
way,
as
I'm
well.
going corners. I think 5 is the max that we're gonna see.
I'll go corner too, though. Yeah, I'll go
Like
corner.
5 is the max quarterbacks we're gonna see go, and I still think it's possible we only see 4.
Yeah, I think 6 is the number I'm targeting for cornerbacks. I think 6 can go in the top 40. And if the Colts hold on to 35, I think they'll be amongst those 6 that take one. I really think corner will be the target at 35, unless they decide to go interior offensive line at 35 because they feel like they can still get a starter at 79 in the third round. So
If they still have 79.
right, boring, they still have it.
So then day 2, we talked about a few positions that they could target. Day 3, knowing Chris Ballard, knowing how his brain works, and looking at this class, is there a position or positions that jump out to you right away that you're like, yeah, that is something I would expect them to target on day 3?
I don't have a guy specifically for this position, which I probably will very soon, but linebacker. Ballard always takes a linebacker on day 3,
I'll give you a name too.
and they usually hit. If he's from Indiana, it doesn't count. It doesn't count, Destin.
He's not from Indiana.
Okay, all right. I know about your infatuations. I was trying to get ahead of it. Shout out to Sarah, man. Appreciate the $2. She said, please Ringo or Brents and Mingo and AR-15. Hey, that's not a bad. It's not a bad top 3 picks. I tell you that. They managed to pull off Ringo, Mingo, and AR-15. Well, he doesn't want to be called that anymore, so I'll respect his wishes. Anthony Richardson. I'll be ecstatic.
0? Does he want to wear 0?
Can you imagine him in 0? I think he might need a 2-digit number. I don't
I don't
know.
know. He could rock one. Get some cam motion going.
Yeah, I just feel like that's too much. That's too camish. I don't want him to wear two because the last two quarterbacks that wore number two has just been
Didn't work out in our favor.
yeah. So um four is Ellinger, right? Uh I don't know. I'm gonna have to think about that. Maybe you can ask him,
We'll
when you
see.
get a
We'll
chance
see.
to talk to him.
Yeah, we'll see. But um, so I'll give you a linebacker. So I said earlier, I think coverage linebacker is a role that I would not be shocked if they look at a lot. I mean, Bobby Okereke leaving in free agency, that was their best coverage linebacker. Even when Shaquille Leonard's healthy, Bobby was their best coverage linebacker.
Hmm.
So that will spot is going to be a battle in camp. I mean, I'm sure EJ Speed's going to get a shot at that will linebacker spot.
Yeah.
But Mike and Sam are pretty much covered. They got their guys there. That will spot's going to be a camp battle. Aubrey Miller Jr. from Jackson State. This was a guy I had in my mock draft. If you guys if you guys saw it, if you guys didn't, I'll make sure to drop it in the comments so you guys can take a look at it. But a recent Colts 7-round mock draft that I had, Aubrey Miller Jr., heart and soul of that Jackson State defense last year, and an excellent coverage linebacker. Had multiple games last year where he tested out with a. I mean, PFF is not the see all be all,
Mhm.
obviously, guys, but Aubrey Miller tested out with a plus 90 coverage grade in 6 games last year.
Yeah. This is a name I've heard a lot. A guy that I'm mentioning is Dorian Williams from Tulane. Impressed me a lot at the Senior Bowl. And of course, me living in New Orleans, I'm a tad bit biased. I see Tulane play a lot more than most. Pretty much the world got introduced to Tulane when they beat USC. But a guy that ran a 4.49 at the combine, 10-yard split of 1.54.
Moving.
Uh, yeah, moving. Flat 10-foot broad jump. I'm sorry. 33.5-inch vertical. Very athletic guy. 6'1", rangy linebacker, can play sideline to sideline, and can match up with some of those, speed tight ends, some of those guys that's considered mismatch advantages. He can match up with some of those. So I think that's an intriguing name to watch too.
I think there's a couple positions that I want the Colts to double dip in, and we'll see what happens there.
You mean
Um,
besides cornerback?
Corner's one. Like I would
I
love the
know for
Colts
sure.
to double dip at corner, and I think there's some day three options there, and I'll give a name. One receiver that I would like, and this could be the first receiver they would take, depending on how day two goes. Because they couldn't pass on receiver on day two. I know people would hate it, but they could. Raheem Jarrett out of Maryland. I am a big Raheem Jarrett guy. I think he has some run after catch ability. I think he has big play ability over the top. Um, he he wasn't. He's not a guy who has like that top end speed 40 time that's gonna like wow people, but still ran in the 4.5s. Like people look
Mhm.
at 4.5 like it's slow. Like 4.5 is not slow, people. I think people
Yeah,
forget like Debo Samuel ran the 4.5s.
he did. He did.
And I don't think anybody would look at him in the NFL and say, "Oh yeah, Debo's slow."
There's some really fast that ran fives. Well, I can't think of who it is.
Stephon Diggs ran a 4.48. Like that's pretty close to a 4.5 as
It
well.
was DeAndre Hopkins. That's who it was. He ran a 4.57. Like that's so what? He's not fast. He's still one of the best receivers in the game. Probably not at this point in his career because he's a little bit on the older side. But in his prime, I don't think anybody was sitting at home saying, "Damn it, DeAndre Hopkins." That's something nobody's ever going to say because he's a football player, just like a lot of those quarterbacks we talked about, like Clark Phillips, 5'7". He ran what a 4.5, 40. He's a football. You put him in a something like perfect. A lot of Kenny Moore actually plays in the slot. Just a ball magnet, ball production. And this is how good this cornerback class get. I get sidetracked. I was talking about receivers, and I just went right into a cornerback breakdown because I just love these cornerbacks. But yeah, man, 4.5 is not slow anything. That's why I was surprised when Julius Brents ran a 4.53 because sometimes he looks a little slower on tape, but he's just an outstanding athlete, man. At 6 foot, what, 3? They have that vertical 40. It's ridiculous, man. Like Julius Brents is the ridiculous athlete. He's just so raw, and if he can be coached up, he can be a top-notch cornerback.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping we get to see Julius Brents at the local pro day on Monday in Indianapolis. I'm hoping he accepts that invitation. All the local kids are going to get invited, so any of the local schools as well as local prospects.
Yeah,
So a few that you can think of off the top of your head: Dewan Jones from Ohio State is an Indy kid. Will get the invite. Julius Brents is an Indy kid. Is going to get the invite. Now, whether they accept it, I don't know. But that is just an extra look that the Colts could get at those guys.
what about your
Um,
guy Cam Jones?
I mean, all the IU, Ball State, Purdue, those guys are
Mhm.
also going to get those invites because if it's your home state or your home college, like both of those can count towards local pro days and
Charlie
get the
Jones, Payne
invites.
Durham.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
like to
all
see
those.
those guys.
Yeah, all those guys could be there. So let's hope that we get some heavy acceptance for this over the weekend. But try to think of any other positions here before we kind of open it up for questions. The linebacker one was a good one to look at for day three. Receiver. Um, so we had
Dontavian Wicks might be a receiver to watch too on day 3. I know that's
big,
your guy,
big. I'm a
Destin.
big Dontavian Wicks guy. I'm curious if he moves at a speed that they're going to look at on day three. I think he is a guy who is fast. He's faster than he is quick, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like he's a guy that creates separation because he's just a very savvy route runner, not so much that he's just speed. But I do think that that's something they're going to look at are these guys that separate with ease because they lost Paris Campbell this offseason, and Paris Campbell, his speed would give him separation at times, but he didn't create a ton of separation. I think that's an element that they're going to want to look to add is a guy that is just a natural separation artist. I put a guy that is your guy from the Senior Bowl in my mock draft recently.
I saw it.
Um, and he's a little smaller than some people would think a Colts receiver would go, but I did Jaden Reed out of Michigan State because when I said a natural separator, like that Jaden Reed is as natural of a separator as you're going to get. He made people look foolish when we were down in Mobile.
He absolutely did. Him and I got to give credit to Nathaniel Tank Dell as well, who a guy who got separation
Now he's way too
instantly.
small for the Colts.
Yeah, but he got separation at an
Oh
elite
yeah,
level right off the line of scrimmage. I'm talking about it. Don't take him too long to get into his release. And man, when he does, he just explodes. Yeah, but like you said, he's way too small of a guy. The Colts gave me some false hope though. When they signed Isaiah McKenzie, I say they may be willing to go outside their size parameters now. Now we cooking.
Jaden Reed. I mean, he's like almost 5'11". Like he's I think he at the Senior Bowl he was like 5'10", 8. So
Yeah, something like that.
almost to that 5'11" threshold,
Hmm.
about 4 inches off. I mean, Tank Dell's like 5'8". Like there's just no way.
He's small, man. He's really small. Like,
There's just no way.
and he's not even thickly built, where you could justify it. But yeah, hopefully one of those guys, like you say, early separators. I think you just need something different. You have all the size, you have all the height guys, big guys. You need someone who can separate. I know Isaiah McKenzie is that, but let's not get too crazy. That's not a guy you want logging all of those snaps for you. You want somebody to take some pressure off of him. I like Josh Downs. I
I
do.
say Logan
I think he's
Schultz,
gonna go
Josh
rather
Downs
early though.
trade up and make it happen. I think he's an end of first, early second guy.
Hmm.
Josh Downs is a receiver. So I said earlier, Keely Ringo's a guy that if he's there at 35, I'm gonna have a hard time trading back. Like I make the decisions for the Colts. But if I were, like I would have a hard time trading back if Ringo was there. Josh Downs is the receiver that I would have a hard time trading back if he was there at 35. I think he is a great fit to go alongside Pittman, Pierce, Downs. Like, oh, that'd be nice. That for a rookie quarterback. I mean, like you're setting them up. You're setting them up now. Our corners, our starting corners will be a little iffy if that happens.
I was about to
Um,
say, what are we doing at cornerback? We're gonna have to sign multiple
well,
free
this
agents.
man who has a contract on the table needs to. I'm calling his line.
Yeah, you definitely better up the offer if you're gonna call his phone. But I'm interested to see, man. The Colts have a bunch of needs. They can't fill them all through the draft. I think they have to make one or two signings at some point soon. Just because you want that, you don't want to have to draft a certain position, Tank Spud Webb Dale. You don't want to have to draft a need. You want to be able to just draft best player available and let the draft kind of come to you in that way. You don't want your needs to dictate your draft. So hopefully they're not stuck in that position where they feel like they have to fill a need and end up reaching for a guy that really doesn't deserve that draft slot.
Well, and we said it earlier, but I think this corner class being as deep as it is probably part of the reason they were willing to. I'm not going to call Stephon Gilmore a trade request, but he definitely was okay with being sent to a winner.
Right.
I don't think he demanded to be out of here by any means, but I think he definitely gave the nudge of, hey, if you guys can get something for me, I would love to go play for a winner.
Yeah, and they did the right thing. They did
Yeah,
right by him.
they did it. He's over in Dallas now. But this corner class being so deep is probably why they were so willing to do that. Because if they do keep that 79, like I think they could have a pretty solid contributor in round 3. I'm higher on Darius Rush than most. If he is a guy that people talk about in the 3rd round, I'd be all about that. Like I think he'd be
Mhm.
a great fit here.
I
But
think it's a good fit here for
I
sure.
think he ends up going in round 2. I do. Like I just think he has too much speed, has too much ability to like take away a receiver at the corner position that he's going to end up going day 2. But people have him mocked in the 3rd, 4th round. If he was there in the 3rd, like I think he could start right away.
Yeah, he's a guy that's intriguing to me, and I do have a day 3 grade on him, like extremely day 3. I have late day 2, early day 3 grade on him, and I like him a lot, specifically for the Colts. The Colts. And shout out to my man Joe Camacho. He say he will be at the draft circle to witness who will be our QB. Represent us right, Joe. Represent us right out there in Kansas City. Be safe too, man. The draft was fun last year. Had too much fun in Vegas, probably.
Have some good barbecue out there, Joe.
I'm jealous, man. If I wasn't moving, if I wasn't moving into my new house, definitely would have been out there for the draft.
Hey, next year's in Detroit though. We're pulling up to Detroit.
Station to maintain now. I can't have it. You gotta. I know you like the wear suit. But you got to suit, Destin.
Hey, we'll see what happens. We'll see. We may go a suit. We may not. I don't know, but it is in Detroit. Now this is a off cuff question, so if you don't have an answer, I can go first. But is there a player that is a day 3 prospect through and through? You look at him and he's gonna get drafted on day 3, but like that's the guy you're banging the table for as a day 3 prospect.
Oh man,
Like I said, I can go first if you're not ready. This was an off the cusp question.
I'm gonna go with Stetson Bennett. I mean, like you have to bring that type of
Whoa.
winner into your. No, I'm just
Whoa.
joking. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Whoa.
I'm kidding. I don't know. Go first. Go first.
So I'm gonna
Let me
go a
see
guy that
who.
I got to watch on the pro day cycle. Carrington Valentine, corner out of Kentucky. He plays with a moxie and a fire that I think the Colts are gonna love. I got to see the Colts area scout there talking with him afterwards personally, him and his agent. I got to talk with his agent a little bit at the pro day as well, and got to speak a little bit about the 40 time that he saw from the scouts when he was trying to get the times. And Carrington Valentine ran a sub 4.4, 4.38. And when he ran his shuttle, ran the shuttle drill, ran it just off the charts. And then when he did it, decided to mean mug the scouts in attendance, just giving them that look like you saw
Really?
that. Just walking away, took his shoes off immediately. Like he was done for the day after that shuttle. Took his shoes off, mean mugged him, walked off. Like he's got a little bit of a fire that he's a little bit rawer. People didn't get to see him as much at Kentucky because of some injuries here and there, but I think he's a guy that on day 3 has the speed that you're gonna like, has that energy you're gonna like. That I think he could be a solid rotating in corner while he learns the position more.
Okay, I'm gonna go with sticking to pros and guys we saw at the pro day. I'm gonna go with Eli Ricks. A big physical guy, had a very good year at LSU. His freshman year was the year LSU won a national championship, and the sky was the limit for him. It was him and Keon Boutte that was freshman on that team. It seems like their career just didn't pan out the way it was supposed to be an historic LSU team. But he's a big physical corner, challenges receivers at the line of scrimmage, uses his length extremely well, has active hands, disrupts receivers throughout their route. Make it really uncomfortable for those guys, and you need a cornerback with some size when you're looking at this cornerback room. You want Eli Ricks, I believe, is 6'2", 6'1.5", something like that. But he has really good length, and he's perfect in the run game. Like solid, will come in and tackle, has that attitude, has that mean streak. Yes, there are things I don't like, but when you come with a big three guy, there's going to be flaws, obvious flaws that they have in their game, and that's why you got to coach them up. But Eli Ricks is a guy I would play he could be a starter in the league at some point in his career.
I mean, I like Eli Ricks. He didn't make my top 100. He's just on the outside. But he's a guy, if he was there on day 3, I think he has a higher day 1 playing potential than a lot of day 3 corners
Yeah,
are going to have. So
yeah.
if for some reason they did go with Josh Downs at 35 and they decided to wait a little bit longer on corner than I would feel comfortable with, I think Eli Ricks is a high floor potential guy that could
Yeah.
come in and play that they could take on day 3. But we're going to head out of here pretty soon, guys. If anyone has a question that they want to make sure that gets in before the cuff, as always, super chats get first priority. But we're willing to have one more conversation here as we're going to head out in the next few minutes. But I love that we both went corners. Like again, that's just how this class is. Since y'all are hearing the Colts are probably targeting AR, does that mean they see a gap between him and Levis? Keep up the great work. So, I mean, personally, from what I have heard on the situation, I think they like both of them. I think they like Levis more than other teams do, to the point where if the Colts took Levis at 4, like I think if they don't take him at 4, there's a situation where Levis could fall quite a bit. I do think they have a gap. Personally, for me, I think they've looked at Anthony Richardson. From what I have heard, I think C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson are the 2 quarterbacks that they have been enamored with the most through this cycle. So that's the reason. I keep hearing it from multiple different sources that those are the guys that from the jump impress them the most. So that is why I've been pretty stagnant with. I think if that's who it's going to end up being.
Yeah, I think identifies the gap between them, or if they even come to that conclusion, they'll move to the spot. But until that happens, Colts are fine just letting this play out. I Colts like Levis. They think it's gonna be Levis. We're over here on the Richardson side from everything we've heard, and it's fun, man, because I know the Colts are floating both of these things out on purpose. They don't want it to be any one decisive answer. They know the worst thing that can happen is people to find out that they're keen on one of those guys in particular, and then somebody be inclined to jump ahead of them and take that. So it's just funny, man. It's funny watching this play out.
I mean, I don't know. What I've heard is they love Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett's going to be the pick at 4. They just love that fire he has. They love that personality he has. Obviously, I'm joking.
About to end
Uh,
broadcast right now.
but But anything they got to get out, man. It's lion season. Don't if you don't want to trust me, don't trust me. If you don't want to trust Shaad, don't trust Shaad. Like everyone is gonna have these things going out. The reason that I've been pretty strong with my saying about it is because I didn't start hearing this enamorment with Anthony Richardson in April. I've heard it since February.
Yeah.
Like it has been a long process to where like that has just been the constant thing from the people that I have within the team that have given me the talks about it. Like they've been very constant with it. How much is Ursay paying me?
Not
None.
enough.
I've never even won one of his giveaways on Twitter, so that man's never given me nothing.
I know. I totally knew the answer to that was Dominic Rose. I always feel like it'd be considered cheating if I answered it, and he would never give me one of them because I cover the Colts for a living.
Yeah, they
So
would click on our page, see our bios, and say cheater.
you're right. So that's why I never enter them. I know half majority of the answers that to the questions,
I
but
don't
I just
enter him
never enter
anymore
them.
because I entered like 400 times in a row and never won. So I just decided he didn't like me.
Even though you got the answers right, but
Yeah, I never
okay.
won.
That's
And
we can
on
end the
that
show.
note,
We can end
and
the show
on
right
that
there on that
note,
note right
Max
there.
Duggan to the Colts. I'm not gonna slam Max Duggan. I'm gonna slam this entire quarterback class outside of the top four. I I have one guy that I look at that's not in the top four that I'm like, man, if you're a team that has a good quarterback and you want to like just shoot your shot on a guy and just like see if it works, which almost never works. But there's one guy I have in this class. Do you think you know who it is?
Can I get two? Can I get three guesses?
Sure.
Jaren Hall,
No.
DTR.
Nope. He was
Hmm.
he was at he was at the Senior Bowl.
Oh, Malik Cunningham.
Nope.
Hmm.
Clayton Tune.
Really? You like Clayton Tune?
I do.
I think I like DTR
Clayton
more than him.
Tune.
I
Clayton
think
Tune is my quarterback six. I still have Hooker over him just because he has so much more skill now. Um, but I think Clayton Tune.
Hooker's a better quarterback than
That's what
Clayton
I'm
Tune.
saying. That's what I say. I have Hooker at 5, but Clayton Tune is the only quarterback I look at um, that if I was a team that had a starting quarterback in place that was older. I'm trying to think of a situation I can think of. I mean, all the older quarterbacks are starting to retire on us. Um,
Mhm.
But like, if for whatever reason, like Brady was still around in Tampa, like Clayton Tune is a guy that I would look at in Tampa and say, let's take a stab on him on day 3. Like
Yeah.
I see that type of potential in him. All the other guys, like I see guys that are priority undrafted free agents that could be fun, like Aiden O'Connell out of Purdue. I think he has enough fun skills that he could be a more talented Sam Ellinger, really smart, savvy, good guy player,
Hmm.
but actually can throw the ball farther than 12 yards.
You're trying to get us blocked, man.
It is
You're,
what it
you're
is.
trying to get us banned to the shadow realm.
It is what it is. But everybody, it was a really great show. Really glad that we had you guys on another week. We are going to be more into the draft season. We're going to be diving more into this draft class. Maybe talk less corners next week in another position you guys want to hear. So let us know if there's a
Receiver,
position.
receiver, baby.
Receiver. Maybe we'll go deep into receiver next week. So thank you guys for listening to Saddle Up with Shaad and Destin. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Make sure you guys hit that like button. And make sure you guys give us a follow on Twitter as well as following at Colts on FN for Horseshoe Huddle coverage. Thank you guys. And as always, go Colts.